So surround yourself with people who have either already done what you're doing or they are doing with you what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So when you run into mindset issues, you can help each other, or you can get advice from someone who's already done what you're trying to do. A lot of times, what keeps us from building wealth, investing, from making more money, are generational money cycles. Those are the things that hold us back, and we don't even know about it. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. And a lot of times when we were growing up, we inherit the beliefs from our parents as they had inherited beliefs from their parents, right?
Right.
So beliefs about money, about wealth are passed on from generation to generation. That includes limiting beliefs, right?
Absolutely.
Which is so hard to get over. And so we're going to talk about, and we work with so many investors as they're on their wealth journey. And we're going to talk about some of the more common ones we encounter and how you can get over these.
Yes. And, it's so easy to blame our lack of success on strategy and tactics, and those are very important, but that's not the only thing that's important. If we don't have our head in the right place, if we don't have the mindset in the right place, if we're not working on our mental health at the same time, the success, the journey becomes so much slower. And so we want to give you this information, these learnings that we've had after working with hundreds, thousands of investors. So a few things that we hear all the time are things where I hear, especially as women, we are so good at this. We self-gaslight ourselves. And we say that unless I'm working hard, I don't deserve wealth and I don't deserve money. And this is something that even that was instilled in me growing up, right? But in reality, we all know in theory that rest is productive. Our bodies need rest. Our minds need rest to be able to make the right choices, make the right decisions. But we constantly push ourselves to be more and more productive, thinking that that is the way to success. Right? We constantly gaslight ourselves when we are tired, when our minds are tired, when we know that we're not in the right place where we can think with clarity, we gaslight ourselves. And this is something that was taught to me the whole time growing up. When you're sick, mind over matter, right? You're sick, just push forward. This is what I was told growing up. And so I had to reparent myself, relearn that I am sick. My body needs rest. It's trying to tell me something, right? Another example I often hear people talk about is perfectionism, right? Unless I know everything, unless this deal is absolutely perfect, it's not good enough. Unless I have done all of the things that I need to do, I'm failing. That's how people think. That's a very perfectionist kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? And it comes from super critical upbringing, very, very well intentioned from parents.
Yeah, and some of it is also, and look, this is not like we're not playing a blame game here, right? Unless you
not.
understand where the beliefs are coming from, it's hard to overcome them, right? And sometimes it may not be your fault. Sometimes it was passed on generation to generation. Again, to Palak's point of these are good intentions, right?
Good
like
intentions.
our parents are trying to teach us the right things as we are with our
Right.
kids.
And the same thing, our kids are going to grow up too.
And we
be
may
like,
pass on certain beliefs,
Yeah.
limiting beliefs to our kids as well. But, it's important to be cognizant of that. I think we break these generational cycles of limiting beliefs, of, thinking that money doesn't buy happiness, and that money doesn't grow on trees, and that,
or that if you have money, you're going to turn into
a bad person,
a selfish person.
And these are things that you want to first identify and then try and fix, and make sure you're not making the same mistake.
Another one I see often is risk averseness, and that comes from, again, well-intentioned parents trying to protect children. And this is how we were also raised. And the only reason I knew that it was different than how wealthy people were raising their kids is by reading a lot. And I realized that a lot of parents, as parents, we're constantly warning our kids of the dangers and we're stopping them from taking risks, whereas the wealthy are teaching their kids how to take calculated risks. And there's a big difference. And hey, no time like right now to make that change, right? So yeah, these are just some examples of things that we've noticed. We've worked through them ourselves. We're still working on them. And there are certain tips that we're going to talk about today that you can use to be able to break some of the generational cycles that you may want to related to money and wealth building. So the first one is generational cycles cannot be broken with advice from people who are still living it. So if you're trying to break a wealth cycle, if you're trying to break a money productivity mindset cycle, that cannot be broken by taking advice from those that are still living it. And it's going to be the same for our kids. That's what evolution is, right? Like we all have to do better than the previous generation so that the next generation have less baggage to deal with. And so trying to build wealth, we often hear people say that, I really want to take action, but my mom or my dad was telling me this. How do I answer that? And the response is, if they haven't built wealth, taking advice from them to be able to move forward is not going to be helpful. It's well-intentioned, no doubt. Parents love their children and they're trying to protect them. That's why but they're only speaking from their own experiences.
Yeah. And, so taking advice from people who have done something that you're trying to do, right? Who are already on the other side, that have been asked the same questions that you are thinking of now, that have had the same self-doubts and limiting beliefs that you're having now, but they are on the other side. And that helps to, connect with their journey and how they did it, because that can apply to you.
So surround yourself with people who have either already done what you're doing or they are doing with you what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
So when you run into mindset issues, you can help each other, or you can get advice from someone who's already done what you're trying to do. The next one is realizing that success, when it comes to mindset especially, is not a straight line.
Yeah.
And breaking these cycles is hard work. You may not be productive in the traditional sense that we are all used to. You may not be running around doing things. You may not be on your computer firing away emails to people. But all this takes mental space. And it takes a lot of ups and downs before you get it.
Yeah. It's not necessarily a flip that you can switch, but
switch that you can flip.
switch that you can flip, or you can just flip it. But
pun intended.
Yeah, and when you're in the gym, right? One example of when you're in the gym and you see somebody lift, do bicep curls with 50-pound dumbbell, you're like, wait, how am I gonna do that? You can't do that day one, right? And neither should you try to do that day one. Right. You start small and you build up to it, and the same applies for overcoming.
And you may give up, right?
And and it's important not to give up, right? Because you may try lifting a 30-pound weight and you may not be able to do it. You're like, yeah, I can't do this. Sorry, I'm not doing this. And it's easy to give up.
Yeah.
But if you start with a smaller weight and you practice and you keep that consistency and perseverance over a period of time, you can get there. And the same applies for overcoming generational. That's why they're called generational beliefs, because they're hard to get rid of that easily. But identifying them and then slowly working every day to overcome them.
Absolutely. And if you think about having that dumbbell, that next level weight, right? And trying it. You may not get 10 reps day one, right? You may stop and then you try it again and you try it again. And then the next day you'll be able to do it. And so that's exactly how it is with mindset and breaking these cycles. And something that I've noticed is when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, when there's a lot going on, it's very tough to keep up with the cycles that we're breaking. And so give yourself some grace. And that's my third tip is as you're going through this, give yourself some grace. Breaking these cycles is hard work. And so if you cannot implement them at every given point in time, that's okay. Give yourself some grace, pick yourself back up and get back into it. Because the whole point of this is to leave a better world, better mindset, better legacy for our kids. And even if we're imperfect while we're doing it, that's totally okay.
Absolutely. And what I love actually about investing and building wealth is that you're going to have to overcome these along the way, right? Like building wealth is a journey of self-discovery, and it's not just learning the strategies and the tactics and implementing them. It's also overcoming the fears, overcoming your limiting beliefs. And a lot of times people that we work with are like, yeah, but so many other people are doing it, but I don't think I can do it, right? Like they just feel this limiting belief that they cannot achieve what somebody else is achieving with that same information. And that again comes with a generational belief that's maybe passed on since you were a child. It happens to all of us. We had to overcome so many limiting beliefs ourselves,
and we're still overcoming
them. And
we're
still overcoming them, right? And
that's a part of it.
But that's a part of it. Yeah. That's the journey that you're on, and you have to enjoy. There'll be times when you're uncomfortable, but
there'll be times when you don't enjoy it because discomfort is not enjoyable all the time, right? Yes. And that's okay. You'll enjoy the outcome at the end.
Absolutely.
So something that I find that it's harder to grasp these concepts for wealth building, but then when you talk about these in context of parenting, everybody gets it immediately. So I'm going to use that one example. And so if you think about how we are parenting our kids in this generation, it's different, very different than how people did it in the previous generation. For example, a lot of women I know are working, and men I know, parents are working on emotional regulation, right? The way we grew up was like, hey, do as I say, not as I do. And it was like, that's the finite line right there. Don't cross that. It's not like that anymore. We want our kids to have that connection with us. We don't want to be blowing up at them because of their mistakes. So many of us are working on these things, right? Another example is dads are involved in this generation. They're parenting, they're bearing the load of parenting their kids just as much as moms. And that's a big generational cycle that we're all breaking. All of these cycles that we're breaking, if you're a parent, you understand why it's hard to be a parent in this generation. And I read somewhere that apparently parenting, the verb, didn't even exist up until very recently. You're a parent, you're just a parent. There's no act of parenting. That's how they thought about it before. But now their parenting is a thing that we do. We spend time and effort doing it. And so that takes effort. It's the same thing with building wealth. It's not just about the strategy and the tactics. The reason parenting these days feels hard is because people are breaking these generational cycles. Same way, if you're after making more money, building more wealth, it's going to feel hard because you're breaking those generational cycles. And so when I relate this concept to parenting, I feel like everybody gets it. So I wanted to share that.
And it's so rewarding to your point earlier where you said your kids don't necessarily do what they're told, but they just copy you, right? They do what you're doing right now, right? And so what's gratifying is to know that as we are breaking through these barriers and as we are changing some of our beliefs, our kids are watching us go through this. And, as we sort of change our habits, change our beliefs, they're sort of learning from that, and they're going to do hopefully what we're doing. And so that makes me feel even more committed to the cause, even though it's uncomfortable and even though it takes work. But knowing that you're setting an example for your children that, look, you did it and so can they.
Yes. And they see you grow and change and improve. And that's how you want to leave your legacy, right? That we're growing every day and it's not perfect.
Yeah.
So that's it for today, guys. Wanted to share this with you. Let us know what you think in comments wherever you're watching this. Wanted to remind you, we have a 5-day pop-up program going on right now. You can find it at theinvestoraccelerator.com, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.